8 Key Accomplishments of Henry Kissinger's 100-year life. 1. Negotiating the end of the Vietnam War. Kissinger served as National Security Advisor under Nixon. He took over negotiations with North Vietnam. From 1969 onward, Kissinger negotiated with Le Duc Tho. Their discussions dragged on for years. In 1973, they finally reached an agreement. The Paris Agreement removed the remaining U.S. forces from Vietnam. 2. Diplomatic architect of détente. Kissinger feared the Cold War spiraling into doomsday, so he pushed for U.S.-Soviet dialogue. His efforts paid off. The first round of talks began in 1969 under Nixon. The first treaty, known as SALT I, was signed on May 26, 1972. Each side agreed to reduce its strategic arms. 3. Opening relations with China. Kissinger was and is respected in China. He visited the country months before his death. When he died, Chinese media called him an old friend. He helped normalize China-U.S. ties in the 1970s. In 1971, Kissinger secretly met Chinese leaders. This became known as the trip that changed the world. It paved the way for Nixon's 1972 visit. That year, he became the first U.S. president to visit China since the founding of the PRC. 4. Shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East. Kissinger pioneered shuttle diplomacy in the 1970s. He would travel back and forth between the warring parties. It started after the 1973 Yom Kippur War. This war pitted Israel against a coalition of Arab states. Kissinger held countless meetings, urging restraint. His efforts led to ceasefires in 1974 and 1975. 5. Nobel Peace Prize recipient. In 1973, Kissinger won the Nobel Peace Prize. He earned it for brokering a Vietnam ceasefire. His negotiating counterpart, Le Duc Tho, declined the honor, but Kissinger accepted the award with humility. He then donated the entire cash prize. The money went to the children of American servicemen killed in Vietnam. 6. Involvement in the overthrow of Salvador Allende. Allende was the 20th president of Chile. He identified as a Marxist. He ran for the presidency in 1952, 1958, and 1964. He finally won in 1970. Kissinger pushed Nixon to oust Allende's government. He worried about his Marxist model spreading. In 1973, the Chilean military moved to oust Allende. The CIA provided covert support for the operation. The military surrounded Allende's residence. He never walked out of there alive. His death was ruled a suicide. 7. Ladies' man reputation. Kissinger called women a diversion, a hobby. Hollywood bigwigs competed to set him up. They matched him with starlets and celebrities. Some of the women included Jill St. John, Shirley MacLaine, and Marlo Thomas. Kissinger was voted as the man I would most like to date in a 1972 Playboy bunny poll. He once famously said,
"Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac."
8. Advising generations of U.S. presidents. Kissinger left the government in 1977, but he remained an informal advisor to Presidents Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush Sr., and Clinton.
America has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests.
Henry Kissinger